inspection related and kind of what that entails and why should you get a home inspection. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you been doing this, and share a little bit about like how do you become a home inspector? Is there something you have to really know to do this first? How does that work?
Yeah, well, so as Jared Potts, from Australia originally. I've been in the country since I was in college back in like 2008, 2009, but I've been doing home inspections for the past about 7 years now. It was one of those things that I would say that to get into the field of home inspection, you probably have to have some sort of basis of contractor kind of basis.
Sure.
And kind of have a base understanding of a lot of different areas of home construction, how it's put together and all the different parts of it.
Sure.
But then in each state in America, each state to state is a little bit different as far as what their requirements are to become a home inspector. And the state of Tennessee requires state licensure,
Okay.
Which is a good thing. And they will require 90 hours to get into it. They require 90 hours of a certification process.
That's good.
And then going through continual education, obviously every year, once you are actually licensed, and then insured as well.
Okay. What about certifications? Are there additional certifications beyond your state licensure for a home inspector?
There are some you can do with different bodies.
Okay.
Like there's a group like Internachi online, and with those you can do certain specific certifications, and then nowadays there's more areas of like drone related flying,
Okay.
and those sorts of things that you can get certified in those things to just add as tools to your weaponry.
So you're kind of like a jack of all trades of knowledge on different components of a home, which you go in and do those home inspections for. So why should someone who is buying a house really take seriously getting a home inspection?
So ideally, if you were buying a home, you would want every single trade expert in that field to come in and evaluate.
Right.
You would want an electrician to come in and take a look at everything. You'd want a plumber to come through and scope every single line and check every part of it. You want a roofer to come in. But obviously, scheduling that within a inspection period is quite taxing. And
they're a little busy.
Not difficult. They're a little busy, and they're going to most likely require payments each time they would come out for something like that. So, we as home inspectors, we're not experts in every single avenue, but we have this standard that we have to follow as far as checking all of the avenues of a home, and it helps you to kind of scope that in. So it gives you a general overview of the maybe potentially problematic areas of your home, or different downfalls or different issues that we come across, and we kind of get you point in a certain direction.
Sure. So when I am representing a buyer, one of the first things I explain to them when we talk about the process of buying a house is that I highly recommend that they get a home inspection, because you can't see behind the walls, you can't see all inside the plumbing, you can't, we as a layperson can't walk in there and be like, oh, it's cool in here, so obviously the air conditioning unit's working, because we're not able to check all those things. But you're giving them an idea of kind of what you can see with the house that could be a potential problem later, or something that's a real big positive for the house. And so I even think that I always tell people that are buying new construction that just because the house was built and it was inspected by each county inspector for electrical, plumbing, all the different components, that doesn't mean that there might be not something wrong, even though it's new construction. So it doesn't really matter if it's an older house or a new house. A home inspection is going to give you knowledge. And that's really the big deal with buying a home. It's like, if you buy a car and it's a used car, in my world, I would want, if it's not coming with a warranty, I'd want a outside mechanic to kind of do a once over. Just tell me that it's not going to break down the minute I leave the parking lot. Yeah. And so that's a great tool. And then in the buying process, we can take that information and go back to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, we found this plumbing leak in the home inspection, and can you please get that fixed? Because, you don't want to buy a home and then already have something that you've got to put money aside to fix, unless it's a fixer-upper and you're already prepared for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look back in even the history of that residential, like the real estate process, you know, a lot of homes were probably just sold as is.
Yes.
You know, and then home inspections kind of came afield to some sort of offset some of that liability as far as, you know, especially for real estate agents selling a home with maybe there were issues that the home had. But issues are found on any home.
Absolutely.
I mean, even on new constructions. And I find issues and problems on new constructions all the time. And sometimes they are small things, and sometimes they could definitely lead to like larger issues down the line.
Absolutely. I had a house one time that was a new construction, and the water had not really been run very much in the house. And during the home inspection, they found that some of the PEX plumbing had holes in it because the drywallers, they had actually put their drywall screws in and they had hit those lines. And so without someone there for a certain length of time running the water, they wouldn't have known that until they moved in. And then they have, you know, water in the wall because, you know, it's coming through. So there are little things that will show up on any home, you know, and some of those things are the product of what we call deferred maintenance, where sellers just did not take care of issues that could have been taken on when they were small, and then now they've become big. So that leads me to, what are some of the common things that you see on homes most of the time?
So it's funny, like you said, deferred maintenance. And I mean, that is one of those things that maintenance items are small for you and I, that we look at a house and there are things that you need to take care of. And for a lot of people, there are things that are deferred maintenance that they just never look at or never just take responsibility for and never complete. And some of those things, like a small PEX leak, you know, or small plumbing leak, that might just be a maintenance thing to repair originally, but if you let it go and let it sit for a long time, then I mean, you can get like wall rot, you can get mold that gets developed, you can have floor structure that goes out, and these deferred maintenance things can become extremely problematic if you let them go. And so, you know, there are simple things as far as like servicing your HVAC system.
Yes.
If you have a crawl space, going through and checking it every now and then. Water leaks are one of those things that you may not know you have a water leak until it's been gone on for a long time. And so it's like I talk to people about home inspections similarly as like doctor checkups, that you should probably just go in once a year, evaluate all your different like areas of the house. So whether you're checking out your attic, whether you're checking out your crawl space, just kind of having that kind of, you know, good look and overview of your home to see if there anything that has become out of line for what it should be.
So if I'm a homeowner and I'm not even thinking about selling, I can call you and I can say, hey, Jared, would you come do a home inspection on my home? And you can locate some of those things. Because, like, I'm not going to get in a crawl space. Most people don't want to get in and especially if it's a tight crawl space, nobody wants to get in the crawl space. And the crawl space is, when I list a home, that's the one area that I always say, have you been in the crawl space recently? Because we all know that those crawl spaces are what causes us a lot of problems in the South, because they're very common and people just don't go in their crawl space. You forget about it. And you live there. So this is a great time to share your contact information so that people know how to reach you in case they want to get a home inspection just because.
And that's something I try and do for people, is do annual maintenance inspections and those sorts of things, just kind of go over like that. But they can look out for me on my website, which is potshomeinspections.com, or they can give me a call on my cell, 423-708-5755. And I'm happy to chat and just kind of talk about different things from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great, like you said, that's a routine thing that you could just go ahead and schedule on your calendar every year. I'm going to call Jared with Potts Home Inspection and say, Jared, come out and check my house and locate those things, especially like I was a single female for a long time that, I had gotten to where I could fix a toilet. Like, I mean, if it was in the tank, I could probably go fix that. But there are things that, I'm not getting up on the roof, and, like you said in the beginning, if I've got to call each one of those people in that trade, it's probably going to take me a month to get them out because they have huge, busy schedules. Yeah. And, they're not going to come out. I mean, they're probably $150, $200 an hour. Typically. If not more. So I'm not going to ask them to come out and just pay them to, because they probably aren't going to give me a full workup and go completely over everything. Yeah. So I love that idea of sellers, not even thinking of selling, but owners that own homes just saying, hey, would you come take a look? And I think that would hold true for someone that might own rental properties too.
Yeah.
Because you don't live there, and if you're gonna own it, you're gonna have to know what maintenance needs to be done. And if you've got somebody that has lived in it for a year with a lease, you don't know how they've treated it. Mm-hmm. So maybe every time somebody moves out, you get a home inspection, and that will tell you how your rental property is holding up.
And there are a few of my clients that own rentals in town that live out of town, and that's part of the process with them. I go through and evaluate it, like typically before and after they have tenants come in.
That's a great idea, especially if they're out of town, or if they're an Airbnb owner and they own here but they live in another state. I mean, like that's like having somebody be able to come out and do a checkup.
Yeah.
I love that. So what are some of the biggest things you've seen on a home inspection that were like, whoa, wait a minute, this is a big deal?
Well, I mean, there's not been very many homes that I've kind of walked away from that I've just gone, oh my goodness, we've got some problems here. But a lot of them end up being in crawl spaces and end up being structural.
Sure.
With that deferred maintenance, if you have crawl spaces that don't have vapor barriers or just have a lot of water intrusion in them, and then in this area, the biggest thing becomes just that moisture. And so moisture in wood is not a good thing. And so, you and especially we have a lot of subterranean termites in this area as well. And so that becomes another aspect to that as well.
Absolutely.
So like I have gone into homes where I've seen the main beam maybe compressed about 2 inches because as it's sitting on a pier, and it is compressed 2 inches because it is weakened over time, and the house has just sunk down over it, and that wood has just gotten softer and softer. And you see that and you're like, okay, I need to really talk with my clients about this and impress upon them how important it is to make some adjustments here.
Sure. Well, I will never forget. I went to go and show a house one time, and it had been raining for days, and we had a drought before that, and then this was like the first rain we'd had. And the husband goes out and he decides he wants to look in the crawl space. And they had a bucket of rocks against the door to hold it shut. Okay, I wasn't alarmed by that because you want your crawl space sealed up so animals aren't making their home in there. Well, he moves it, and the minute he moves it, the water that was in it flowed out like a raging river and pushes the door open. And I went, maybe this isn't the best house to buy. And he's like, oh no, we might fix that. And the wife's just looking at me like, did you just hear what he said? And so, I mean, like that was like, I've never witnessed that before. And I thought, what in the world that you have all of this? But if you're dealing with a house that has some water issues in the crawl space, or let's say it's a basement, and you're going through there, and what are you checking in the basement of a home to make sure that there's not water intrusion happening? How do you check that?
I mean, first you're going to check just the overall exterior grade. That's going to be the main thing, is if you have a basement that is obviously below grade, so it's dug into the earth around it, you want to see what the water is doing, or like what it potentially could do. And then, so evaluating that exterior grading, which we have a 6-10 rule, that if you stand 10 feet away from your foundation, the soil should fall about 6 inches over that 10 feet to fall away. So that means you have a positive grade around your house,
which provides for water to flow.
And move away from your foundation. And then once you're inside the house, I mean, you can go around and really you're kind of looking for any discoloration in the drywall or in the baseboards, any signs of moisture. If they have like a laminate flooring on the floor, laminate wood flooring, you can see if there's any deflection, cupping or crowning in the flooring to see if there's any like high moisture levels have come in there from before. There's even been times where I've gone through and I've like been tapping on the walls and my finger has gone through the drywall.
Oh, sure.
As I'm going through, just because it's just so wet down in there. And those things happen. But fortunately now, while I don't have like x-ray vision, like they have new tools of things like infrared cameras. And it as you go through a basement, it's really good to have a quick scan of an infrared camera.
Absolutely.
That can show or reveal if there's any like cold spots or wet spots in behind the wall too.
I always enjoy looking at your reports and seeing that, because it gives you that feeling of reassurance that, okay, I don't have moisture problems, because it wasn't just feeling of the walls, but it was that infrared sensor that's sensing whether or not there's any moisture. It kind of like makes the buyer feel at ease. And, when you're faced with something like that, a lot of times, like you say, it could just be caused by the grading. And a lot of times the companies that come out there, it can be as simple as a gutter that's, not facing the right way, and it can be easily remedied and not be an incredibly expensive thing. So I think one of the things that I enjoy about you doing home inspections with my buyers is that you give them the full picture, but you don't give them a horror story to where they are so scared, but you let them know that, you can seek out different people to fix this, but it's a solvable issue. Yeah. So I appreciate that about you. So let's talk about, sometimes people will want to have like a radon test done. And how common do you see radon in our area? Which radon is a gas that you can't smell, and obviously you can't see it. So we don't know until we have a test done if radon exists. And a lot of times in northern parts of the country, radon is really common. And, we have crawl spaces more commonly than we do basements probably here. And so I don't know that the community knows a lot about what radon is and its damages, but it is a cancer causer. And so that's why it's a risk factor you want to check for. How common is radon?
It's one of those things that it can be sort of hit and miss around this area. And it's one of those things I have seen extremely high levels. And ironically, it was something that I was testing for other people for a long time. And then I wasn't using them. And I was like, I'll just run them at my house for a little bit. And I had really high numbers.
Wow.
I was like, I'm an idiot.
It's like the mechanic with the broken down car.
Like, why did I not test that beforehand? And so, it's one of those things. But then I've seen it pretty quite drastic levels. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it's just good to know. And it's just to know whether there is a base level for it or not. And it's one of those recommendations that typically everyone should get it just to know. As you said, like further up in the north, there are places that in a new construction, it is almost a requirement now to install passive radon systems. And so if there is a problem, they can just install a fan. It becomes an active radon system, mitigation system. They're not doing that around here yet. I've seen maybe one or two new homes that have gone ahead and done that, which is a great movement forward, especially because it's one of those things that you just, you don't know until it's too late. And
Does radon...
the leading causer of lung cancer.
Does radon only exist if you have a basement, or does it also exist if you have a crawl space?
Yep. Radon is everywhere.
Okay.
And it becomes high concentration when you put something over it.
Okay.
So if you have a basement, if you have a slab, if you have a crawl space, you can find it.
Okay. Good to know. What would they do if a house had radon and there was a slab?
A lot of times in slab instances, I've talked to some radon mitigators before, and they actually don't mind. They actually like doing those. Sometimes it's just kind of drilling down underneath underneath the slab and installing a fan system in from underneath.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because I think as a community in the South, we're just not as knowledgeable about radon here as we probably should be, because it's always been something that has not really been talked about. But if it's a potential cancer causer, we need to be testing for that and just making sure that we are aware.
Let me tell you, I was randomly saw a Simpsons episode, and they made a joke about it in the late 90s. So it's been around for a long time. It has been
around since the beginning of time, literally. So, what other kind of testing do you do that is, not just part of the home inspection? That the radon is an additional thing that you can do. Is there anything else that you can do to make sure a home is safe?
There are a lot of home inspectors out here that will offer a multiple variety of ancillary services. Typically, I just do radon testing.
Sure.
As far as that, but there are some that will offer mold testing and like asbestos testing, lead testing. And there are some companies that will offer those services, but.
Yeah, and we know that lead was taken out of paint back in the 70s, and it's no longer included in paint that they use in homes. But if you have an older home, chances are it might have had lead-based paint, and probably been painted over 5,000 times in the last 35 years.
Or just covered up.
That's right. So when you are doing a home inspection, you mentioned that there are some drone things that you may do. What are you checking with drone footage?
So I like walking roofs.
Okay.
I have found in my experience that there are some things that you can, there are times that drones are excellent, especially if there's like a slate roof, or if you have a tile roof, something that you can't easily walk.
Sure.
Being able to use a drone and fly around and above to see if there's anything going on from there is a great thing. But yeah, so I mean, that's why a lot of people will use drones, especially in tight situations or in just extremely tall situations.
Really tall roofs.
There are some homes around here that are maybe 3 or 4 stories tall and don't really have any way to, we're not carrying ladders around that are going to go 150 feet up in the air to be able to access that. So being able to utilize a drone to get up there and take a look at that sort of stuff is why they're going to use it. Yeah,
that's interesting. So if someone hires you to do a home inspection, what should they expect with the process?
Yeah, so as a standard, I will come in. It will take about 2 to 3 hours on site for the actual inspection process. I always try and communicate as much as possible with my clients. If they want to come, they're more than welcome to come. And then, so it's just a matter of going through my checklist.
Sure.
Like you build that kind of structure and that rhythm to go through and evaluate the entire house. And I take photos and videos of everything that I need to, and a lot of photos that I don't need to. And, I'll take maybe 300-400 photos on site on every one inspection, and then put those all into the report and try and package that all together, so that the buyers, the realtors, the homeowners, whoever that is given access or whoever is paying for the inspection has a good understanding of how their home is doing.
And in that report, you're going to categorize things. And how are they categorized as far as, if you find something wrong, some may be a higher level risk than others. How's that categorized in the report so that a layperson that's reading it can understand the severity? Yeah,
typically that depends on being up to the inspector on how they're going to categorize those things. Typically, I will put them into 3 categories of either maintenance items, recommendations, or safety hazards.
Okay, so the safety hazards are the ones that need attention in order to, call the home safe and livable. And what would be an example of a safety hazard?
It can be something as small as having the right smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in the house. It could be an unsafe deck. That's maybe an attached deck that hasn't been attached properly or isn't up to the newer standards.
Sure.
Or just in bad shape.
Okay.
So Typically,
Okay.
I try and reserve the safety hazard section for things that I truly believe are things that need to be taken care of, and especially in case of if there are any small children or anything like that are around. Like, I don't want people evaluating a home that there's a deck that I just deem it as quite unsafe. I'm going to put that in as safety hazard just to make sure that no one goes out and is out on that area.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you don't inspect with a home? Like if someone's got a pool or they have a hot tub or something like that, what are the things that that's out of your arena? You're not expecting that thing.
So typically things like washers and dryers.
Okay.
They're typically not run and gone through a full cycle.
Okay.
Sometimes they are upon special recommendation or special request. But yeah, then pools are sometimes inspected. It just depends on what the client wants in that
Right.
regard. But obviously there are some things that you can't check with a pool, especially if it's been winterized.
Okay.
You can't check all of that pump equipment and to see if it's actually maintaining pressure and all of those sorts of things.
Sure.
But yeah, so typically we say home inspections are non-invasive.
Okay.
So, we're not removing drywall. We're not ripping things off. We're not causing damage to the structure in order to evaluate it.
And you're not evaluating septic tanks.
No.
That's not in the scope of a home inspection. And I always tell my sellers to do you all a favor and to please make a clear path to the
yes, please.
water heater and your
Electrical panel
panels so that
and attic access.
yes, and attic access so that it is not blocked and you all can do your job and check those things.
Yeah, because we're not supposed to move personal property.
Yeah.
Especially if the home is being lived in that we're inspecting. We can't just come across and move all your items out
Right,
of the way in
right.
order to get access to the things that we need to.
Absolutely. So some takeaways would be that if you're a homeowner and you just want knowledge base about the condition of your home and maybe a checklist of maintenance items, that is a great place to start, and they can call you for that. Then if you're in the process of preparing to sell your home, it's a good idea to make sure that your home is up to par with what a buyer may request from you later. You could get a jump start on getting things corrected. And you could have a radon test done for your own peace of mind to know that your home is safe for everyone that's living there. And then the other piece is if you're buying a home, it is the way to have another set of eyes looking more thoroughly at the house to make sure that you know what you're getting when you buy it. And then, potentially have the ability to ask the seller to make some repairs to have that home brought back up for, a standard that makes it easy for you to become the new homeowner.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share my contact information because I'd love to help you with selling or buying a home. And my name is Lisa Calfee with the Source Real Estate Group, 423-802-0875. And Jared, give your contact information again.
It's Jared Potts with Potts Home Inspections, and it's 423-708-5755.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today, and give Jared a call.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Do you imagine a career with flexibility and limitless income potential? It's possible by becoming a Realtor. The River Counties Association of Realtors, located right here in Cleveland, Tennessee, is ready to help you unlock your potential. We're your go-to resource for guiding you to obtain your Tennessee real estate license. We're more than just realtors, we're a vital part of our community. Partnering with local charities, we work tirelessly to make a difference. Join the River Counties Association of Realtors today, where your career can thrive and community can too. Visit rivercounties.com or call 423-476-5